Monday, January 5th meeting of the Verona Plan Commission, and we will begin with the roll call, please. Mr. Sayre?
Alderperson Linder.
Here.
Mayor Hokemer.
Here.
Commissioner Horsfall. Here. Commissioner Lytle. Here. Commissioner Heinzen. Here. And Commissioner Getz is absent and excused tonight.
We do have a quorum. I'm not sure. I think the entire Plan Commission knows that we have a new Plan Commission member. Unfortunately, he sent us all an email today saying that he has not been feeling well for about 2 weeks. So Mike does apologize for that, but he will be a great member of the Plan Commission, and we'll all look forward to working with him. So next on the agenda, we have approval of minutes from the December meeting. Those minutes were included with your packet. What is your pleasure? Mr. Horsfall?
Approved with one correction.
Go ahead, Mr. Horsfall.
On page 4, it said Alderperson Brad Steiner had provided a commentary, and to that commentary I had said I agreed with that and thought that the site should be best placed at the current 55-acre location. So I wanted that added to the notes.
Get that, Mr. Burns? Okay. So we have a motion by Mr. Horsfall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Linder. Were there any other additions or corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried, and the minutes are approved. Next on the agenda, we have discussion and possible action regarding initial site plan review and conditional use permit review for Epic Systems Corporation to construct 5 office buildings, Campus 5, and it's located at 1979 Milky Way. Mr. Sayre, if you would provide the background, please.
Thank you. This is the initial review tonight for Epic's Campus 5. Initial review is the first step in the process of approving this project. There is no action tonight. This project would require a site plan approval from the Plan Commission and also an amendment to Epic's conditional use permit for a group development. It also would take a conditional use permit for the height of the buildings as well, which is similar to Campus 4. Epic is here tonight proposing 5 office buildings. These buildings would contain 1,600 offices approximately, and approximately 500,000 square feet of office space. Construction timeline from a standpoint of this, it would be similar to the Campus 4 construction. They would begin by constructing the parking ramp, which was previously approved by the Plan Commission and Council, and they'd also start construction of some of the buildings that are not on top of that ramp, similar to Campus 4. A precise construction sequencing has not been finalized at this time, but that is the initial thought of probably building it very similar to how they have started Campus 4. Access to the site would be from into the parking structure by free flow ramps. Similar to the farm campus, that would be by Northern Lights. Parking, as I said previously, the 1,500 car underground parking structure was previously approved by the Plan Commission and Council. The location of that structure has shifted very slightly with this site plan. Staff has no concerns with that being slightly modified. Landscaping plans, conceptual landscaping plans were submitted with the proposal. Epic has always done a good job in the past of over landscaping and planting more plantings beyond what is required by code, so staff has no concerns at this time. Stormwater, there is a large stormwater pond which is labeled as Campus 5 Lake north of the proposed Campus 5 that would be constructed concurrently with this project. Architecturally, each building has a different look and design to it. Similar to the other buildings on Epic's campus, all buildings would be high quality architecture, lots of use of stone, glass, some have slate roofs, brick, very similar to what you've seen before, just like I said, high quality construction. Staff has taken a look at it initially. We have no concerns with it. As I said previously, the heights on a few of these buildings would require a conditional use permit, similar to what we did for Campus 4. The building heights, though, are actually smaller than Campus 4. They range from about 50 to 60 feet in that area. Precise designs are still being finalized, but they would not be as tall as Campus 4. One thing that was not in your packet, but they did submit, was 3 different kind of shots from the neighborhood, kind of looking at how this campus would be viewed from that neighborhood. This is from the existing park, so you would see kind of part of the buildings in this area here. With the Bourbon Place, you really don't see too much of it. Once again, this is looking at the future park that was recently dedicated in 2013 by Epic. once again, you're gonna see the building roofs mostly. Also, it should be noted, once the trees on top of the berm grow taller, you're really not gonna see too much. And the last shot here you have from the actual neighborhood itself. You can vaguely see the roof lines there, and the buildings won't look that way. It's just the massing on the site plan, but they aren't going to be very visible at all. So tonight, staff recommends the Plan Commission review the submitted materials and provide feedback to the applicant. I know Bruce Richards and some EPIC staff are here if they're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Sayre. Are there any representatives from EPIC that wish to add anything? Otherwise, we'll open up for questions. And if you would, we know who you are, but would you introduce yourself, please?
Bruce Richards from EPIC, 1979 Milky Way. Just one point I wanted to point out. I know that 60 feet was what you were looking at, but that 60 feet is viewed from the ground on the lake side. On the road side of the buildings, we're looking at 45 feet for the height of the building. So I just wanted to point that out. And again, I'm here for any other questions you have.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions or comments. Any questions or comments? Mr. Lytle?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I know that EPIC has a long-standing tradition of having planning meetings with the neighborhoods. Can you talk about if that has occurred around Campus 5 at this point, or do you have that planned?
Yes, we did have a meeting before Christmas, met with the neighborhood, discussed, and really what came out of that meeting was more traffic questions than there was building questions. We did show some of the drawings of the buildings at that time. So, and we are addressing some of those traffic concerns that came up. More was in the township than actually was in the city.
Okay. And Mr. Sayre was, sometimes I know city staff attend. I didn't know if anyone from the city was at that.
Mr. Sayre?
Yes, Bill and I were at that meeting, and I would concur that the most of the questions came regarding Country View and traffic. I don't recall any major concerns coming up. I know Alderperson Linder was there as well too, but the big kind of concern was mostly traffic on that town road.
Great, thank you.
Other questions or comments? No real, Mr. Horsfall?
Just continue, it looks great, so continue on. I don't have any comments.
That's what I was going to say as well. We've seen prior plans, and we've known that this is coming. Everything looks great. Thank you for all the information that was submitted. Mr. Linder?
Yeah, a couple of questions. So with the Northern Lights Road, with that ramp and stuff, does that affect the existing berm at all?
Temporarily it will. We're going to probably reroute the road a little bit into the berm while we put those ramps in, and then we'd move the road back. But otherwise, it would not affect the berms.
Okay. Right now, there's a like a pedestrian path that goes through the berm. Is that going to change so it's on the outside of the berm at all?
That was the discussion I was going to bring up with Ron Reeder when we got together at the next meeting. Your concern was brought up about could we move that to the other side of the berm, and absolutely we could do that. I want to make sure, part of that was a negotiation with the city on which side to put the bike path on, so I want to make sure that nobody has an issue with that
Yeah,
before
just
we do anything.
from a user, I think it'd be really valuable to have it on the opposite side of the road.
I know one discussion we had was leave it where it is today and actually take another path on the other side of the berm and then tie them back together. That was one option.
The other thing is the lake. Is that going to be just like a shallow stormwater?
No,
or-
actually, it's going to be 25, 30 feet deep. We're going to use it for a geothermal cooling pond also, and it'll be about 10 acres in size, so it'll be a pretty good size pond.
Is it public accessible, or is it?
Well,
Not-
it's within our private property.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call it public accessible at that point.
it's not a skating pond then.
Not yet.
Okay.
With the geothermal under there, we'll probably have posted signs in the winter like we do on Pond 4 because the ice will be thin
Okay.
because of the geothermal.
Okay. All right. Otherwise, yeah, I think it looks nice. I do, as a resident of that area, I do appreciate you guys working to try and get it as low profile as possible and have less of it showing, because that was one of the major concerns when this whole thing started, about a year or two ago. So I do appreciate your efforts on that, and seeing a little bit of roof line is better than seeing half a building. So
Right.
thanks on that effort.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Other questions or comments? Mr. Heinzman?
Sure, yeah, I'll just say what others have, that it looks really very, very nice. But because I'm not so good with recognizing the architecture, what's the theme? Is there the name of the theme, I guess, for these buildings?
Well, we have not come up with the names yet. We're still working towards that, and that's part of the final design. I know in the local newspaper it talks about the Authors Campus. We officially have not named the campus as of yet. So we're still trying to work out, and at the last minute, as you know, we entered the last 2 buildings to bring it up to the 5, and we're still working towards that. So I think our start on this may be a little later in the spring than early, until we have the thing finalized.
Mr. Horsfall?
Another quick question. Is this gonna be it then, or is?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay, good answer.
Mr. Linder?
Just one other question, will there be blasting for
Yeah,
this?
there'll be a small amount of blasting in the one corner of the parking deck. We're gonna have to do some blasting. We've done enough soil borings to know that at this point. It's not gonna be anywhere close to the blasting we've needed to do on the other campuses, though.
All right.
It'll be very small.
Other questions, comments? Not seeing any. Again, this is initial review, so we look forward to hearing back from you again.
All right.
Thank you, Bruce. Next on the agenda, we have discussion and possible action regarding initial site plan review and conditional use permit review for the Verona Area Community Theater to construct new rehearsal and performance facility at 103 Lincoln Street. Mr. Sayre, if you'd provide the background, please.
Thank you. VACT is looking at constructing a new facility immediately south of the city's fire station that's currently under construction, so between the new fire station and the bike trail. The facility would be approximately 14,000 square feet, will provide rehearsal and performing arts space for the organization. The inside of the facility would have approximately 150 seat performance center for smaller shows. Larger shows would be performed at the high school. They'd also have space in there for the recreation department for use as a dance studio, and they'd have practice space and also significant storage space for their sets and their props. The city is in the process of purchasing the existing VACT building on Bruce Street, and the city would also have to enter into a lease with VACT to lease this property from the city, and that's something we'd have to do here in the near future, and the council would have to act on that. Tentatively, they're looking at starting construction in the spring of 2015, dependent on fundraising. Staff has done an initial review on this. From a setback standpoint, it does meet all the setbacks. This does fall within the overlay district in our downtown. So the building is approximately 17 feet from Lincoln Street and 20 feet from the south property line. That does conform with the overlay district requirements. Parking on the site, there are 37 dedicated parking spaces on the property. The parking spaces would be used by this facility. There is also overflow parking, which would be located on the fire station lot to the north. These gray bump outs here would be the pedestrian connection there. VACT would have to construct a bridge over the drainage ditch. There's a drainage ditch that's located just north of this, where I'm kind of drawing the line here. They would construct a small pedestrian bridge over that so it could connect to the fire station parking lot. So during some larger events, there would be possibilities of having the overflow parking into the fire station. There's also on-street parking, and obviously there's parking here at City Hall as well too. 38 parking spaces are required by code. With the shared parking in the area, staff feels that the parking is sufficient for the site itself. One of the things that VACT has added to the site plan is a drop-off area in the front. This drop-off area would be utilized for kids during performances, if people dropping off their children. It could also be utilized during events for people to drop off their family members at the door on cold nights like this instead of parking and walking. So how the parking lot will work is that if the parking lot is full and you want to drop off a child or person, you'd swing in here, drop the person off, and if the lot's full, you'd actually have to come out, exit out the rear of the property here. This would be a one-way out the back side of the building. The one challenge we had when taking a look at this, we looked at a variety of options of how to make this traffic work to get people back out. It was kind of the exit you see here. We had at one point a small roundabout or cul-de-sac in the back that chewed up a lot of parking, and this was kind of the best option that we came about, that we realized. It'd be in a location that's very similar to the existing path that's on the property right now. There would be an east side access over here that we continue to be used by the police department and the fire department during hometown days and larger events. So staff is comfortable with how this functions, but I just wanted to point out that this would be a one-way exit only. This would be two-way exit, but most likely when the lot is full and people are dropping people off, they would exit out the rear of the building. Drainage and stormwater, there is a stormwater pond that's being constructed east of the site. That was master planned with the fire station to accommodate this use. So water from this project will go into that pond. Staff has no concerns with stormwater at this time. The building itself will contain a significant amount of glass, brick, and metal. This is a view from Lincoln Street facing south. Obviously, the entrance and the foyer is the focal point of the facility with a significant amount of glass on it. The red material here, that's brick. It's intended to complement the fire station but not match it. So it's more of a reddish, brownish, orangish kind of hue. And then obviously there's also the gray metal accents for the metal panels that would just accent the building itself. Similar to this elevation, once again, you have the front and then you have some metal accents on the side. I should point out that the rear of the building that faces the bike trail, that is all metal. I don't have any concerns with that because it's just not visible because of the bike path that's there. One of the comments I did make to VACT was, if there's concerns about having that type of material on the back side, they could consider painting a mural on the back of the building or hanging artwork of some type, since it is a performing arts facility, to kind of help break it up. I think the big reason they're obviously going with metal is cost. I mean, there's a lot of dollars invested in the front of the building itself to kind of have that look to it. I don't have any concerns with the metal though, because there's options of how we could break that up if it's an issue. But I just wanted to point that out. That's an elevation that wasn't included right now, but it's material they want to use there. So with that, staff is supportive of the building design and the building location as it is. I think it's a great looking facility. I think it's going to be very visible from Verona Avenue and Lincoln Street at the intersection there, which will be signalized in 2015 in this year. So as you kind of look south on Lincoln Street, this will be along the fire station. This building, it'll be a really nice focal point. I think the location is great on the bike trail and still close to the city's downtown. But with that, this project will require a site plan approval from the Plan Commission, and also will require a conditional use permit from the council. A conditional use permit's required because it's a group development. The fire station's on this lot already, so it would have more than 2 buildings in the lot. Tonight is the initial review, so staff recommends the Plan Commission review the submitted materials and provide feedback to the applicants. I know the architects are here tonight along with VACT, and they'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
And we do have representatives here, as Mr. Sayre indicated. Ms. Dvorak, is there anything that you wanted to add or introductions to be made?
My name is Terry Dvorak, for those of you that do not know me, and I am the representative from VACT. And as John mentioned, we have the architects here that we are super excited to be working with. They're doing a really great job for us. We have a great partnership with them right now. And they are here to give you any or all information that you would like about the design of the building, as well as anything else that you'd like to know about the site that he has not answered. So I would like to introduce them. They'll talk as much or as little as you guys would like. So it's Mark Schelpfeffer and Paul Kuda from Case 4 Architect. So.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the Planning Commission members? Questions or comments? I have one that I wanted to start out, Mr. Sayre or perhaps Mr. Gunlock, and that is at the drop-off. I was just curious, is there enough, if we had a larger vehicle that came, let's say that it was a school bus and they were dropping off kids, is there enough space there in that drop-off area? Mr. Gunlock?
I don't have it dimensioned. School bus, it might be tight. It might fit. I mean, until they actually put dimensions on here, it's hard to say. If a bus would not fit in there, they could just pull right straight up next to that drop off, and they could walk across the asphalt there to get to the sidewalk.
Okay, that's the only question that I had, because I think that's a possibility that there may be a school bus dropping off at some point. So, other questions or comments from planning commission members? Mr. Horsfall?
So kind of in that same vein, is there gonna be large deliveries, like a semi-truck? And then can they make, if they come in that two-way driveway, can they make the turn to go out the one-way? And I don't know if they're not gonna be semi-traffic, then.
Perhaps, Mr. Vork, do you want to respond to the question as far as drop-offs? And if you'd use the microphone at the podium, please.
We don't really anticipate this building functioning any different than we do right now. And so I'm going to answer that in the way that we don't have large deliveries now, with the exception of maybe a Home Depot truck with a little bit of wood. So we mostly do all of our own deliveries through pickup trucks and trailers. So I don't anticipate that.
Okay. Well, did you have a second part, Mr. Horsfall?
Sure. So Verona Area Community Theater is a private organization?
We're a nonprofit organization, private.
And what I'm trying to get at is, has this property been subdivided as so do we need to do a survey map amendment? For this property?
Mr.
Yeah,
Sayre,
I'm a little
please.
unclear about that.
Yeah, it would be that group development, so it takes that conditional use permit, so that's how we'd be able to, work with this project is with that group developments. And what that does, it allows multiple buildings on a single lot. So the city owns the parcel right now. We wouldn't change the parcel. We would just basically allow them to use this area of property with, I think, a lease agreement of some type. And then the process for approving the actual building itself is that group development conditional use permit, similar to Epic, where Epic has multiple buildings on their property. This is 2 buildings instead of multiple buildings, but that's how it would work. It's no different than a project that has a couple buildings on apartments and whatnot. So we don't need to legally create it because we aren't selling them a lot. All we're doing is entering into a lease with them. The council will be at a future date. So we're just leasing a chunk of property to them.
But who owns the building? The city owns the building, or VACT owns the building?
Mr. Sayre?
The VACT building, the one before you tonight,
Yeah.
that'd be owned by VACT.
Mr. Burns, if you would, please.
Yeah, it would actually operate similar to the current VACT building, where the building is owned by VACT, but on land owned by the city with a lease agreement.
Okay.
And as part of the discussions for this project, the city would be purchasing that current building and utilizing that for public works. We would be leasing a portion of this lot to VACT. They would be constructing improvements on that lot with a long-term lease of the city. And that lease agreement would specify the area of the land which is being leased to them for this purpose.
Okay.
Mr. Heinzen?
Sure. As somebody who has had children in VACT for a long time, I think this is a really very nice and attractive looking project. I think, I know where VACT is right now, and to have a building of really that is this attractive, someplace where people can see it frequently, looks great. It really looks very nice.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Heinzen. Mr. Lytle?
Sure, I'll echo what Steve said. And one question, which I'm sure you guys have already thought about, is did you look at doing a loading dock versus just ground level loading off the scene shop, or is that just not feasible with the lay of the land there?
Well, the way that, I don't know what's up there right now, but that back thing where they talked about the drop-off and following, that is exactly what we're going to use that for also.
Right.
Is load our trucks going one way. So, no, we never looked at an official loading dock, but that is how we anticipated using that.
Yep. I just thought, in terms of getting things in and out of trailers and trucks, it might make lives easier if they could actually pull up and step out of the scene shop rather than having to get up and down and up again. But you guys have probably already discussed that.
Mr. Sayre first.
There is an overhead door, if you kind of look in your screen right now. There is an overhead door in the rear of the building. And I think that's probably the intention of a lot of the larger items that instead of taking it kind of through the front of the building, that door would just pull up. It's just a standard garage door, I believe, of some type of metal garage door, so that would roll up and roll down. So I think that's for any type of box truck or trailer, they would load it through there.
Yeah, I was more asking if you looked at an elevation change to make it easier to get things in and out of trucks.
Yeah, my name is Mark Shelfeffer with Case 4 Architecture. We didn't look at that for some respects of the, when they're building the scenes, the ability to actually back that truck into the assembly shop space is a benefit to them. They can get things closer to the stage before they have to actually pick things up and move them around. So that's one, and I think just the size and the layout of the site makes it very difficult to get something like a dock in there. So.
Great. No, compliments. The design's come a long way, and it's looking great, and best of luck with the tough work.
Thank you, Mr. Lytle. Other questions, other comments? Mr. Linder?
I like the old one better. No, just kidding. Yeah, I think it looks very nice. Do you guys think about using like two-tone brick or two different types of colors of brick on mainly on the Lincoln Street side to break it up at all?
I'm Paul Cuda with Case 4 Architecture. I think it's a relatively small building, and so I think right now our thought is the brick that we're looking at has some color and character to it. It has an iron spot in it, so that even though it's kind of brown and red, it has some purples in it, something to draw off a little bit with the gray. We wanted to keep it relatively simple, so we're suggesting that it's one color of brick, and again, just because it's not real large, and we want it to just be kind of a simple, kind of elegant look. It's really more about the kind of the pre-function feature space up in front. That's kind of that lantern or beacon that draws you down Lincoln Street to the facility. So that's really where we've gone. The brick, I think, is really a pretty warm, handsome brick, and again does have some natural color variation in it itself.
It's hard, without just a picture, it's hard
Yeah.
to see exactly what
Yeah.
color it is, but that's what crossed my mind is
Yep.
break it up maybe potentially with different.
And we'll be coming back. When we come back to you, we'll have material boards and all that pulled together. So
Okay.
again, we've been very kind of conscientious of what that is, and something that's warm and inviting.
Okay, and then my next question was kind of what the mayor started on was the drop-off area, going, I don't know which one of you want to talk about, but with so many people dropping off and coming and going at different times, I wonder if it's actually big enough just to handle the normal flow, or is that kind of expected to be on Lincoln Street, more of that stuff, where people are waiting in cars and pick people up?
Well, I think ideally you probably don't want people queuing on the street. That's pretty, I mean, that would be an interesting question for the police department. I don't think they would typically like to see that. But I think part of the thought is that there's a place to drop off and pick up to have safe access on that side without kids having to cross into the, or cross traffic, so to speak, in the parking lot. Really the thought is that we do this in other buildings too, is you hang out in the lobby when you see your car arrive, you go out and get in and leave. It's not supposed to be the queuing spot, it's supposed to be the active pickup and drop off. So part of that is they can be waiting in line before that, but hopefully it's not that. Ideally what we like is people to park and come in and be engaged in the buildings instead of just driving by and doing the quick drop off. But on a day like today, I'm not going in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I picked up my kids yesterday, and
Yeah.
there's 80 kids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking 40-plus cars probably trying to come and go at the same time.
So part of the challenge is if you put that together and put 20 feet per 40 cars, and you try to build for the worst case condition, we would end up having to wrap. I mean, where do you kind of?
Well, I was wondering if you made it all the way towards Lincoln Street and you put the handicap on the right side, on the east side instead.
You could do that. We would reduce parking. I think you would want to be a little sensitive to having a little bit more drop-off space in the front. That tongue that kind of sticks out in the middle and starts to suggest connection over to the other parking. All of a sudden that goes away for a drive lane, and it's kind of more asphalt instead of pedestrian zone. So I think I'd be a little cautious about doing that as a kind of a short-term solution to maybe cut short the whole idea of people lingering. I mean, if you think about a performance that's during a nice day, not in the middle of the winter, you know, that pre-function space between, when there's a small performance, that pre-function space can easily spill out into that space between, at an intermission or something like that. So we want to be a little bit mindful of creating that balance of automobile vehicle versus pedestrian out in front of the building as well, so.
Yeah, it's one of the thoughts that I had, just because I know how many people are dropping off. And it looks, did you think about adding one more spot to the northwest corner there?
I'm sorry?
Did you think about adding another spot to the northwest corner, parking spot, on the opposite side of the handicap?
Yeah, actually, we talked about that today. We don't need both. We only need 2 handicap stalls, not 4. So we're actually going to probably reduce that one down or add another space in there, which would put us at the appropriate amount. One of the challenges with that, and we certainly could put another spot in there. There's currently the landscape. There's some plantings and stuff that are in there that are part of the fire station landscape design that come in there. So that's one of the things we actually talked about today with the landscape and civil engineer in a meeting at VAC. So we'll continue to review that.
Okay. Well, yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. I do like the idea of being able to go all the way around. I think that would help traffic quite a bit, so you don't
Well,
have.
and it's nice that it's all right turns,
Yeah.
that you're not
Yeah.
crossing that.
Yeah.
I think the bus will certainly look at what is that size and try to make sure that that's sized appropriately to accommodate that as well.
And they'll need to make sure that bus can get around the corner there too.
Exactly.
But, yeah. So otherwise, I think it looks very nice.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Mr. Horsfall?
Just a couple of things. I agree with Mr. Sayer about seeing a view from the south, looking from the bike path, see what that looks like. You know, the next time you bring in your plans, I'd like to see that.
Yep.
The other thing is, are you going to have signage on Lincoln Street?
There is an existing sign that's at VAC that they would like to locate in the, can you bring up the plan by any chance, the site plan? In the kind of the darker green corner that's out by the street, just to the west of the handicap parking, that's a planting bed in there that has some larger shrubs. And today we talked about taking that existing sign and placing it roughly at kind of a 45 across that. So as it's a one-sided sign, but as you approach the building, you see that sign kind of down low to about 3 feet. If you'll notice, or I'm sure you've noticed on the northeast corner of the building up high, there is a VAC. We're suggesting that there's an opportunity there to put the name up on the building up high as the roof slope comes down. So that would really be what we'd envision as the signage for the building.
Okay. So just when you bring the next plan and show the signage on the plan.
And that's something we just discussed today, so that wasn't.
Great.
Other questions, other comments? I'll just echo again, I really, I like the looks of the building, the entranceway, the front side, the north side of the building a lot. I'm very excited about the project. It's good for VACT, it's good for the community, and this is another perfect example of a really good public-private partnership, and that excites me very much. So we look forward to continue working with you. Okay, no more questions on that. We'll move to agenda item number 6, which is initial site plan review to allow for the construction of a 17,447 square foot commercial office building to be located at Lot 11 of Liberty Business Park. Mr. Sayer, if you would provide the background, please.
Thank you. This is an initial review for a mixed-use building. This building will be very similar to the one that is currently on the opposite corner to the east. So just to kind of recap for people that just don't know, that are aware of it, this is Liberty Business Park. The city so far has approved 4 buildings in Liberty Business Park. Flex 1 is currently almost completed. It's just right about there. I think they've taken some occupancy in there. Flex building number 2 is currently under construction. Mixed-use building here in the corner, the northeast corner of Liberty Drive and County Highway M is planned to start construction here in the spring, and the hotel is also planned to start construction in the spring and the summer. So the building before you tonight is the building here on the northwest corner of Liberty and County Highway M. This would be a mixed-use building with retail on the first floor, retail and commercial on the first floor, and would also have then office on the second floor. The second floor would also have a large deck and patio off the east side. So it'd be very similar in layout and design to the building to the east. From a bulk standpoint, it does meet all the required setbacks. We did take a look at the current right-of-way setback, and there's also a future right-of-way expansion plan for this for Liberty Drive. The road was constructed currently to the smaller right-of-way. There is an additional 13 feet that could be added in the future if traffic kind of gets to the point of needing that. So on the site plan, you see kind of two different lines on there, and that's where that's coming from. You have the existing right-of-way here, and then you have the future right-of-way in this proximate area. The building itself would have a drive-through on the west side, and similar to the building on the other side of the road, it would have parking wrapping the entire site. The applicant is proposing 80 parking spaces. Parking is calculated on a use-by-use basis, so it's impossible this time for us to calculate the exact parking demand. At a minimum, it would require 59 parking spaces, so currently it appears to be appropriately parked. I think if parking ever did become an issue, obviously there's additional development planned north of this and west of the site as well too. It's something we could take a look at when users are brought forward for this project. Access to the site is being proposed from Fortune Drive and from Liberty Drive. The access from Liberty Drive will require a plat amendment. The access was restricted on the plat for this project when it was platted many years ago. That's something that had been reviewed by the Plan Commission and Council for approval. The applicant would also have to probably work with Dane County as well because it's so close to County Highway M. If you take a look at other business parks in the area, it's not uncommon to have this right-in, right-out kind of restricted in certain areas. It's the reason it was restricted on the plat was it was from a traffic backing up. So if there was a lot of traffic coming south on Liberty Drive in the evening, especially, or in the morning, potentially people wouldn't be able to make that right-hand turn out of there. I don't know if it's a real big issue from the standpoint of people could always go out to Fortune Drive, come around that way if traffic's backed up. But it's something that I know the applicant would need to have approved with this project, and I would encourage the Plan Commission to kind of consider that plat restriction and just provide feedback to the applicants, because obviously if they go forward with this project, that's something they'd have to amend concurrently with this project. The second access point would be from Fortune Drive. This would give people the ability to make that left-hand turn into the site and would provide access to a full intersection as well too, right across from the hotel. One item to note from a staff level that I'd recommend is that the applicant consider an additional pedestrian connection, especially down this driveway that's being extended from the hotel to the north to the actual site itself. I know there's a sidewalk going to the property. I just envision that driveway being used by people at the hotel probably after dinner or before dinner. It's the shortest route, so I would just encourage the applicant to consider either a temporary sidewalk or path there, or obviously as the site develops to north here, take some extra consideration to that as well too. How we're going to get those people through there. The hotel has approximately 231 rooms to it. It's a lot of people, especially when obviously there's a drive-through here, so it's probably a restaurant going in there. So I would just encourage the applicant to give some special consideration to that, because I would anticipate a lot of people probably walking to this property. Drainage and stormwater, that's something that we'll review at the next step. At this time, staff has no concerns with it at the moment because the rest of the site is vacant, so there is space to accommodate stormwater. The building itself will be kind of the mirror of the twin to the east. It'll have that Italian type theme to it. Ephes, stone, brick materials, kind of a synthetic tile type roof to it as well. The design is very consistent with the building to the east and also to the hotel. It kind of carries that Italian theme that the applicant's been going for. And staff has no concerns with materials at this time. It's very, very similar to the building to the east, so we have no concerns with it. So with that being said, staff does recommend the Plan Commission review the submitted materials and provide feedback to the applicant. I know the applicant is here tonight along with the architect, and I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Serra. Is there anyone representing the applicant that wishes to speak or just answer questions if there are questions?
I think we're both here for questions.
Okay. Questions or comments from Planning Commission members? Mr. Horsfall?
Is there, for the lot size, minimum size, building size? 'Cause, you know, you look at the picture on the front page, and it just looks a small building on a large lot. Are you proposing to put more buildings on that one lot? I guess is my question. It looks out of place, or size-wise out of place, if you know what I'm getting at.
Are you referring to like, we've got the large green color run through?
Yeah.
Actually, that's just more for presentation purposes. Similar to this one over here, there's a potential then for another building on this location, this corner, and then the rest of this will be developed as the site develops in that direction.
Okay,
So our plan is there will be another building just like there will be here on this corner.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horsfeld. Other questions, other comments? Mr. Linder?
Yes, thank you. How would you got bike parking there, how would the bike traffic get around? Is there a space through Liberty Drive to get through if they're coming, or how would the bike traffic get there?
Well, I think the bike traffic, similar on the other one, it'll end up coming down, down through Liberty Drive itself or whatever, and actually have to come on down to Fortune, then actually come down just like almost an auto would be in that. I don't believe there are any separate like bicycle trails per se incorporated into this project at this time. No, we'll have plenty of bicycle parking. I don't know the long-range plans along County Highway M. I know there's like a sidewalk there, but I don't know if there's a bicycle trail plan on that too. But those are going to be incorporated in the future. We'd gladly look at that. Yeah.
Seems like a long trip around for a bicycle.
Yeah.
Mr. Sayre, do you have something to add?
I believe there is a bike lane on Liberty Drive. Yes, so there is a bike lane on Liberty Drive. So if someone were riding a bike, they could come down on Liberty Drive and make a right-hand turn and kind of come in like a car would too. So,
Mr. Gunlock?
Yeah, there's not a dedicated bike lane or bike path out there. It's on pavement bike lanes on each side of the road. So at the curb line, there's a 4-foot bike path lane for bicyclists on each side of Liberty Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Gunlock. Mr. Linder?
So would it make sense to have a cutout on the median and Liberty Drive to have a bike be able to cut through instead of having to go up to Fortune Drive and back down? Why not?
Mr. Gunlock?
That's not good to have pedestrians crossing in the middle of a block like that. You don't want that. Somebody will get hit.
So there's no way to get, except go all the way around for a bike?
Well, if you're coming from the south, you could walk your bicycle up the sidewalk if you had to.
Okay. Well, that might be better than going all the way around, but I don't know, just something
Okay.
else to think about. The other question I have is, what about dumpster location? I didn't see that on here.
We haven't spotted that yet, but that would be toward the, let me get direction right, toward the west and probably toward the north, kind of in that back corner of the lot itself.
That corner? Okay.
So if you're looking from the bottom of the sheet or whatever, it'd be up toward the upper left, back in that corner.
Go ahead, Mr. Linder.
I do like I like the second floor balcony, whatever you call it, up there, patio up there. And obviously the buildings look really nice, so. It looks like a lot of parking. I guess I'm not sure what's gonna go in there. I think if there's a way to get less parking, I think that'd be advantageous at some levels, but, in general, I think it looks very nice.
I think our parking right now is driven, and I think Adam mentioned it, there's a potential for some restaurants going in, and that kind of drives the seat count on the parking. So we want to make sure our potential tenants know that we've got the ability to give them the parking if need be. We could actually probably phase in some of those out of Rosa parking too. If it turns out we don't have a restaurant, don't need it, we don't want to put it in either at this time.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr.
Follow up.
Linder.
One more thing is if you do have something between that and a hotel, you could potentially share parking. I think
Right.
that'd be something to look at down the future.
Thank you, Mr. Linder. Other questions, comments? Any other feedback? Mr. Lytle?
Thank you. I guess being a resident of the southeast side of Verona, I'm excited to see some momentum building out here, having some more options, local non-fast food available to us is really good. I'm just curious as to whether your mixed-use building, is that filling up successfully? Are you feeling confident about that? I mean, you can share as much or as little as you feel like sharing, but I
I'll
was
let
just
Dean share what he can share, but it's been quite a bit of activity.
I'm Dean Slavy, president of KSW Construction. Are we talking the first mixed-use building?
right, the one to the
The
east.
first mixed-use building is filling up real well. We actually have a tenant we're meeting with this week. Doesn't know whether he wants to be number 1 or 2. That's why we have the parking a little bigger on number 2, because it's out of Eau Claire. It's a bar/restaurant type there too. So yeah, we have no problem filling them up at this point. The office space above is probably about half full, and we haven't even put anything in the ground yet. So we're anticipating a lot more people as soon as they start seeing it go up. So
Yeah.
we're
No.
excited about it.
Yeah, thanks for that update. I was just curious, but overall, yeah, really liking the architecture you're bringing in, and happy to see some success and some momentum out there.
And one of the main reasons we did it, we duplicated that entrance to look the same. That's why both buildings are pretty much, just kind of give it that feel when you drive in. It's going to be kind of the wow factor we're looking for there. So that's any other questions?
Other questions? Again, another great project. We're looking forward to hearing more from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are now on agenda item number 7, which is Planning Department announcements. Mr. Sarah, if you would, please.
I actually have none tonight. I'm going to keep this on the agenda for the time being, just because there's certain nights I do have things to say, but I have nothing tonight, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Sayre, Mr. Burns? Seeing none, if there's no other business, a motion to adjourn would be in order. We have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Horsfall, second by Mr. Lytle to adjourn. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.